On July 8th, 2019, we had an important court ruling involving BJ's Restaurants in regards to uniforms in the workplace. The case, Townley versus BJ's Restaurants, was published on July 8th, 2019, and the allegations in the case were brought by the plaintiff alleging that the employer was required to pay for the employee's non-skid shoes required by the employer in the workplace, in the restaurants. The employee alleged a violation of Labor Code 2802 and alleged that the employer should have paid for these certain shoes. Now, the Court of Appeal disagreed and said, no, these generic black slip-resistant closed-toed shoes were not required to be paid for by the employer. The employer did not require specific brand, style, or design, and the employer did not require the employee to only wear the shoes at work. The employees could have worn the shoes outside of work or on other jobs. So basically, the court held that the cost of the shoes did not qualify as a necessary expenditure under Labor Code 2802, and that the plaintiff was not entitled to reimbursement under that Labor Code section for the shoes. This case raises certain important reminders for employers about uniforms, and generally, if clothing of non-descriptive nature required or generic nature, such as a black shirt, white pants, or white shirt, black pants, something like that, just generic that the employee can use in other jobs or wear outside of work, it does not qualify as a uniform, and generally employers are not required to reimburse employees for those costs of uniforms. Now, if it is very specific, has a company logo or something like that, the employer needs to provide the uniform or reimburse the employee for the cost of the uniform. Another question I often get is the cost of maintenance for the uniforms. And generally speaking, if the uniform only requires laundering, washing with other clothes, they do not have to be reimbursed for that washing. However, if it requires something extra where the employee has to dry clean the uniform or something like that, the employer will need to pay for that cost. And finally, I get the question a lot too, if an employer does have a uniform, can they require the employees to provide a deposit for the uniform? And under the law, employers can require a deposit, but it's very tricky. And it's Labor Code section, starting out with Labor Code section 400, sets forth a bonding requirement that the employer has to comply with. It's very specific. It has to be tracked very carefully. The employer has to pay interest on the amounts withheld from the employees as well. It's very tricky, and I don't recommend employers going into that and requiring deposits for uniforms without getting specific legal advice before doing that. I hope that helps cover a few issues regarding uniforms under California law. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out, and thanks for your time.